Hey, how's it going? Here I am in another beautiful, beautiful classroom here at Utah Valley University. I'm actually in the Keller building, which is the business school here at UVU. And I was reflecting on an experience that I had last week with my students. Because last week in the professional business presentations class that I teach here, my students had to give their first official presentation. They actually gave what we call an informative presentation, which the focus or the key is to be able to help others learn about something, share their knowledge of something that they know that they think it would be interesting for their classmates to know. And as we were actually preparing our informative presentations, I shared with them something that I learned many, many years ago through a great leader that I had when I first started working, my first official professional job. And his name was Nick. He was an extremely kind and very just giving person. And in our first week of work together, I remember that he sat me down and he looked at me straight in my eyes and he said, "Look, I'm going to share with you something. I'm going to share with you something that I think will be the most valuable thing that you can learn, especially now that you're just starting." And then he paused and he continued and he said, "It doesn't matter, Cesar, what job, responsibility, or what company you work for in the future. It doesn't matter. What matters is for you to remember that you will always be teaching. That is your real job. That is your real responsibility. You will always be teaching." Or what he called ABT. And as I looked at my students when they were giving their presentations, one of the things I told them is that skill that they're learning of how to pass on information, how to share knowledge to someone else, is one of the most important and valuable skills that they can develop. And if you're listening to this and you're a young professional, maybe you're just finishing college or you're just getting started, remember this. Remember that it doesn't matter where you work, what responsibility you have, you will always be teaching. And for those of you who maybe have a lot of years of experience, who are already leading a team, you could probably give faith to this, that it doesn't matter what you're doing, you are always teaching. Now, if we understand and we agree on this principle, which to me has been life-changing, then we also have to understand that if we really want to take this to heart of always be teaching, we also always have to be improving our teaching skills. And I say this because I work with a lot of business leaders throughout the world, and I help them with their communication skills. And it's very common when I work with leaders that they're improving and investing time and resources on getting better at strategy, at planning, at ROI, at technology, which again is not a bad thing. But if we also understand that we're always teaching, what are we doing when we're obtaining this new knowledge? What are we doing to learn how to communicate and pass on this knowledge to others? And it's been my surprise that usually when I work with leaders, they really haven't had much training or they haven't had much to work on in this aspect of how do I improve my pedagogical skills? How do I improve as a communicator? How do I improve as a teacher? Which communication goes hand in hand with that, but there's obviously more things to good pedagogy than just the words that come out of your mouth. And I wanted to remind you this. I actually wanted to remind you two important principles. First, remember that you're always teaching. And it doesn't matter if you're just starting out your career or if you've had a long time in your career. It doesn't matter if you work in IT or if you work in marketing or if you work in human resources. You will always be teaching. I want you to remember that. And second, I want you to ask yourself, what am I doing to improve my teaching skills? How am I improving? How am I working on being able to communicate and to pass on ideas and concepts in a way that other people can learn them effectively. Because ultimately, what work, I believe, is all about is leaving a lasting impact. And if you think about who has impacted your life, who has impacted you professionally, who has left that mark, who has generated change, it's usually someone that has taught you something of value. Usually we remember the leaders, we remember those influential people in our lives because they have taught us something valuable. I remember Nick, even though it's been a long, long time ago and he's already retired, because he taught me something. And I want to challenge you. Doesn't matter what job you have, what responsibility, what position, what market, I want to challenge you and remind you that you'll always be teaching.